The sky above the alien world burned with colors Elias had never seen. Swirling clouds of violet and gold streaked across the horizon, casting long shadows over jagged rock formations. His ship, a sleek human exploratory craft, had crash-landed on the rough terrain hours ago, and every system that could fail had failed. Smoke still curled from the engines, mixing with the harsh wind that cut across the barren plains. Elias staggered out of the wreckage, clutching his side where a deep gash burned with every breath. He grimaced. The first reality of the situation settled in. He was alone. No backup, no help, and this planet was utterly alien. For a moment, he thought of giving in to despair. The isolation was suffocating. The thought of a slow death in this strange, inhospitable world crossed his mind. But Elias was a human. He had survived worse, and at least he had thought he had. Footsteps approached. They weren't human. Elias froze, scanning the horizon. A figure appeared among the rocky ridges, moving with a fluidity and precision that made him catch his breath. She was unlike anything he had ever seen. Humanoid, yes, but taller, with elongated limbs and skin that shimmered faintly in the fading light. Her eyes glowed with a soft silver luminescence, and she watched him with a mixture of curiosity and caution. Kalira, for he would learn her name soon, stopped a few meters from him. She didn't speak, but her presence radiated a silent warning. Elias knew he couldn't show fear. Not if he wanted to survive. Come in peace, he said slowly, raising his hands to show he carried no weapons. His voice sounded strange to his own ears in the cold alien air. The figure tilted her head, her silver eyes reflecting the dying sunlight. The silence stretched. Then, almost imperceptibly, Kalira took a step forward. Elias swallowed hard. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but his body would barely obey. His injuries slowed him too much. And running blindly in this world was a death sentence. Instead, he tried to show respect, lowering himself slightly to appear less threatening. Kalira watched him, and for the first time he saw a hint of something human-like in her expression. Curiosity. Perhaps even empathy. You need help? He asked, unsure if she would understand his words. She blinked slowly, then nodded once. Elias felt a spark of hope. Survival, it seemed, might not be impossible yet. Kalira moved closer, her steps quiet but deliberate. She reached into a small satchel hanging at her side and produced a bundle of plant-like fibers. Elias assumed it was food, though he did not know if humans could even digest it safely. She handed it to him anyway. Eat. Her voice echoed in his mind rather than through sound, an alien form of communication he would later learn was common on her world. He hesitated, then accepted. The food was strange but nourishing, the fibers soft and warm, and he could feel his strength returning little by little. Kalira didn't speak as humans did, but she guided him with gestures and subtle movements, leading him away from the wreckage and toward a narrow canyon that opened into a hidden valley. Elias followed, limping but grateful. He didn't fully understand why she was helping him, but he could sense her resolve. There was no casual kindness in her actions. She was taking a risk. As they moved, Elias stole glances at her. Kalira's body moved with grace, her muscles fluid beneath shimmering skin, her eyes constantly scanning the terrain. It was clear she was a hunter, a warrior, or perhaps both. He wondered what kind of life she led in this strange, beautiful, and dangerous world. Finally, they reached a natural shelter hidden within the cliffs. A stream ran nearby, its waters clear and cold. The area seemed safe from predators, at least for now. Kalira gestured for him to sit and heal. Elias complied, leaning back against a rock as exhaustion overtook him. You are strong, she communicated. The words came again in his mind, soft but precise, as if choosing them carefully. But weak. You cannot survive long on your own. Elias nodded. There was no shame in admitting it. He had been strong once, trained and capable, but out here in a world designed to kill him, his human limitations were painfully clear. Then, you will help me? He asked, unsure if she would reply in a way he could understand. Kalira didn't answer immediately. Instead, she crouched beside him, placing her hand over his wound. He flinched at first. The touch was cool, almost electric, and it made him shiver. But the pain began to fade, replaced by a warmth that spread through his body. Her healing methods were unlike anything he had ever experienced, using a combination of bioenergy and alien techniques that seemed almost magical. Trust. Necessary. she said finally, the words more like a suggestion than a command. Elias understood. To survive, he had to trust her. And somehow he did. Hours passed. As the twin moons rose above the horizon, Elias rested. Kalira remained nearby, alert and watchful. He could see that she had a careful way of moving, a patience honed from years of navigating this unforgiving world. Despite her cautious nature, she seemed to recognize the urgency of his condition. Elias's mind wandered. How had humanity come to this point? Alone, scattered across the stars, always encountering worlds and beings we barely understood. And yet, in Kalira's presence, he felt something shift. He was no longer just a stranded human. He was a participant in a story far larger than himself. Morning brought clarity. Elias woke to find Kalira already awake, tending to small tasks near the stream. She noticed his eyes opening and inclined her head slightly. "You must move soon," she communicated. "Danger comes. Not all welcome outsiders." Elias followed her gaze and saw footprints along the soft earth, alien but unmistakably hostile. Creatures of unknown origin had been near their shelter. His heart sank. This world was not forgiving. He might survive the crash, but surviving the land itself would require every ounce of cunning, strength, and trust he could muster. Kalira seemed to sense his thoughts. "Alone. You perish. Together." Chance, he nodded, knowing she was right. For the first time in his life, Elias felt the weight of absolute dependence on another being. And not just any being, but a creature completely different from him. It was humbling. Their journey continued through the day, Kalira guiding him along hidden paths and through natural barriers. She moved silently, communicating with gestures and mental words, teaching him without directly instructing. Elias struggled to keep pace, but her patience never faltered. Slowly, he began to learn the subtle rhythms of the land, how to recognize signs of danger, which plants could nourish, and how the predators moved. By nightfall, they reached a small, hidden glade surrounded by towering rock spires. Kalira gestured for him to rest while she prepared a rudimentary camp. Elias watched, fascinated by her efficiency and grace. It was clear she was strong, but there was more than just physical prowess in her actions. There was wisdom, strategy, and an innate understanding of survival that humans could rarely match. That night, as he lay beneath the alien stars, Elias felt a strange sense of peace. He had survived the crash. He had found a companion in a world where nothing was friendly. And he had glimpsed the possibility of something greater. The idea that humans could not only endure but thrive when allied with beings far stronger, faster and wiser than themselves. Kalira sat beside him, her form barely illuminated by the soft light of the twin moons. She placed a hand on the ground between them, a silent acknowledgement of connection. Elias felt a subtle warmth where her fingers pressed against the earth, a reminder that he was no longer completely alone. He spoke softly. "Thank you for this." Her gaze met his, and he could sense an understanding far deeper than words. "Survival. Shared," she said. Elias didn't need translation to know what she meant. The first step of trust had been taken. As sleep claimed him, he realized that this world, harsh as it was, might not be a tomb after all. With Kalira's guidance, he had a chance. Not just a chance to live, but a chance to discover what it meant to truly survive in the universe. A universe where humanity was not weak, but capable of learning, adapting, and forming bonds stronger than any single species. And somewhere deep inside, he knew this encounter was only the beginning. The road ahead would be difficult, dangerous, and full of challenges. But with Kalira at his side, the possibility of triumph and of something even greater glimmered like the stars above. The morning sun stretched across the alien horizon, brushing the jagged rocks with hues of amber and green. Elias stirred, his body still weak from the crash and injuries he had sustained. The nights on this world were colder than anything he had imagined. His body ached, and the wound on his side pulsed painfully. Every movement reminded him of his fragility. Survival was no longer a simple matter of avoiding predators or finding shelter. It had become a race against his own failing body. Kalira watched him closely. Her silver eyes, reflective and unyielding, seemed to read every heartbeat, every shallow breath. She had been silent most of the night, keeping watch while he slept, yet Elias felt her presence like a shield around him. It was an alien kind of care, subtle and protective. "You, weak," she said in her mental voice. the alien telepathy they had begun to share becoming more natural. Body cannot recover alone. Must share strength. Elias struggled to comprehend. Share strength? How? His voice was hoarse, each word a strain. Kalira stepped closer, her hand hovering near his chest. My energy can flow to you. Heal, fortify, risk mine as well. He frowned, fear tightening in his chest. You mean you'll weaken yourself to help me? Yes, choice. Necessary, she replied simply. Her words carried no malice, no hesitation, only certainty. It was as if survival was not just a choice, but a law of her existence. Elias hesitated. He had faced countless dangers in his life. Hostile planets, treacherous terrain, even warfare. But never had he felt the weight of another being offering a part of their very essence to him. The thought was humbling, almost terrifying. He had always relied on his own strength, his own wit. Now he was faced with a debt he could not repay. I don't want to hurt you, he admitted. You survive, must hurt, small. Her words were a whisper, yet in his mind they felt like a command and a comfort at the same time. With a shaky breath, Elias nodded. Then, I accept. Kalira's eyes softened, just slightly, before she placed her hands firmly against his chest. A warmth like nothing he had ever known spread from her touch, spreading through his veins, his muscles, his very bones. At first it was subtle, almost ticklish, but it quickly grew into a pulsing, living energy that filled him from within. He gasped, feeling his strength returning in waves. His heartbeat steadied. His muscles ached less. The wound on his side began to knit in ways that made no scientific sense to him. It was as if his body were being rewritten, healed and enhanced all at once. But with each surge of vitality, he felt the subtle tug on Kalira. Her form trembled slightly. Elias realized then that the energy she had given him came at a tangible cost. She looked tired, drained, yet she maintained a calm, resolute expression. You, strong, she said softly, but now bound. Sense each other. Elias blinked. Bound? Kalira's gaze met his. Feel? Life one, another sense. Danger, pain, strength shared, he was overwhelmed. The connection was intimate, not in a personal sense, but in the purest form of survival. He could feel her heartbeat echoing faintly in his own chest. He could sense her thoughts flickering across his mind. He could even feel her emotions and the concern, the focus, the silent determination, weaving into his own consciousness. I feel you, he whispered, and I feel you, she replied. The bond was strange, powerful and terrifying. Elias could move with a new precision, his reflexes sharper, his muscles stronger. Even as he flexed experimentally, testing his newfound strength, he felt Kalira's presence as a counterbalance, a guide, a companion that was now more than just a physical entity. This is amazing, Elias said, awe in his voice. I feel unstoppable. Kalira tilted her head, a faint quirk in her posture that might have been a smile. Unstoppable. Together. Alone. Perish. The rest of the day passed in a blur of movement. Elias, guided by Kalira, explored the surrounding terrain, learning to trust his new abilities. He moved faster than he had ever imagined, scaling jagged rocks, leaping across dangerous chasms, and dodging the natural predators of the world with ease. And all the while he felt Kalira's presence, a steady pulse of guidance and protection that made every step less perilous. Yet it was not all triumph. Elias knew that the bond was not just strength, it was a responsibility. He could feel Kalira's fatigue, her life energy subtly draining into his body. If he pushed too hard, he would risk harming her, or worse. And in turn, she would sense every strain he endured. Their survival was now intricately linked. By evening, they returned to their hidden glade. Elias leaned against a rock, exhausted but exhilarated. Kalira approached, her own form showing the strain of the energy transfer. She knelt beside him, placing a hand on his arm. Balance. Necessary, she said, cannot. Take too much, heal. Slowly. He nodded, understanding the delicate equilibrium they now shared. Thank you, he said again, though words seemed insufficient. I owe you everything. Kalira's eyes met his, silver and unwavering. No, hope, choice freely given, trust and foundation. The night settled over them. Elias felt the bond like a tether, a lifeline that linked him to something greater than himself. He was no longer merely human struggling to survive. He was part of a partnership, a shared existence where strength, life, and instinct flowed between two beings. Sleep came reluctantly. He could sense Kalira lying nearby, her breathing calm and measured even as her body worked to recover from the energy transfer. He tried to match his own breathing to hers, finding comfort in the rhythm, understanding instinctively that their connection was as much emotional as it was physical. When he awoke the next day, Elias found that his body had adapted. Movements that would have been painful before now felt natural. His muscles responded with precision, his senses attuned to the world in ways he hadn't experienced before. The gift Kalira had given him was not just temporary, it was transformative. But the dangers of the alien world remained. Kalira led him to a high ridge overlooking the valley, where they could observe the movements of predators and other beings. Elias marveled at her knowledge, how she anticipated threats, recognized safe zones, and even predicted weather changes based on subtle shifts in the air. Her skill and instinct were breathtaking. "You learn quickly," she said almost approvingly. "I have to," he replied, "if I want to survive. And help you." Kalira's gaze softened. For the first time, Elias felt a hint of pride emanating from her. It was a rare thing in her world, apparently, a sign of respect, perhaps even acknowledgement that humans, despite their fragility, could be remarkable when guided properly. Their exploration led them to a dense forest, filled with towering plants and strange luminescent creatures. Elias was in awe, his human mind struggling to categorize the alien flora and fauna. Kalira moved with ease, guiding him past dangerous predators and teaching him how to forage safely. As they ventured deeper, Elias realized that the bond they shared gave him more than strength and survival skills. He could sense the subtle signals in Kalira's mind, her emotions, her thoughts, and even her fears. It was disorienting at first, but he learned to interpret the signals as guidance rather than intrusion. When a sudden rustle in the underbrush signaled the presence of a predator, Elias reacted instinctively. He leapt forward, faster than he had ever moved before, and intercepted the creature before it could strike Kalira. The predator hissed and backed away, sensing the combined strength of their bond. Elias felt a surge of adrenaline and pride. He had protected her as she had protected him. Kalira nodded in approval, a rare gesture of acknowledgement. Together, strong. The bond, he realized, was more than survival. It was trust, cooperation, and understanding on a level he had never experienced. Humanity had always relied on ingenuity and resilience, but here, in the company of a being so different and so powerful, Elias understood that strength could also come from unity. As night fell, they returned to their glade. Elias settled down, his body tired but invigorated. Kalira sat beside him, her form showing the lingering effects of their energy exchange. Yet she did not complain, did not falter. She simply existed, a steadfast guide and ally. "I feel different," Elias said quietly. "Like I belong here." Kalira's eyes met his, silver and unwavering. Belong, earned, shared, strength, trust, foundation. And in that moment, Elias understood the full depth of their bond. It was not just a gift of energy, but a connection of purpose, intent, and mutual respect. They were no longer two beings trying to survive in isolation. They were a team, a partnership forged in the harsh crucible of an alien world. The night stretched on, quiet except for the gentle rustle of alien foliage and the soft murmur of the stream nearby. Elias could feel Kalira's presence like a steady heartbeat beside him. He drifted into a sleep that was deeper, more secure than any he had known since the crash. For the first time, he allowed himself to believe that survival was possible, not just for him, but for the two of them together. And somewhere deep inside, he felt a flicker of something more. The spark of hope, courage, and the dawning realization that humans, no matter how fragile, could endure, adapt, and even thrive when allied with the right companion. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But for now, Elias knew he was not alone. He was part of something greater, something stronger, something that proved in the harshest of circumstances that humanity was never truly weak. The sun rose over the jagged horizon, casting long shadows across the alien landscape. Elias stood at the edge of a cliff, the wind whipping against his face. He felt stronger than ever, every muscle in his body responding with precision and speed. But Kalira's presence reminded him that strength alone was not enough. Survival required understanding, strategy, and cooperation. Danger. Near, Kaylira said in her mental voice, a subtle tension vibrating through their shared bond. Elias followed her gaze and saw movement in the valley below, figures moving swiftly, silhouettes unlike any predator he had encountered. They're coming from the forest, she added. Not friendly. Elias clenched his fists. He had grown used to fighting for survival, but the creatures approaching were not just wild animals. They were intelligent, coordinated, and deadly. And they were fast. Then we fight, Elias said, his voice steady. Together. Kaylira's silver eyes glimmered with approval. Together. Strong. They moved down the cliffside with speed and precision. Elias marveled at Kaylira's skill as she navigated the rocky terrain, her body a blur of controlled motion. He had learned to anticipate her movements, to sense her intentions through their bond. Every step felt like a dance, every leap perfectly timed. As they reached the valley floor, the first of the creatures appeared. They were large quadrupedal beings with armored hides and glowing eyes. Their jaws opened wide, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. They charged without hesitation. But Elias met them with newfound strength and agility. He dodged, countered, and struck with precision, Kaylira moving in perfect sync beside him. The battle was fierce. Elias had never fought anything like this. Every strike required focus, every movement demanded coordination. Yet he felt an exhilaration he had never known. For the first time, he understood that humans were capable of more than endurance. They could adapt, learn, and overcome even in the most alien circumstances. Kaylira's energy flowed through him, guiding his strikes, enhancing his speed, and sharpening his reflexes. He could feel her awareness like a second skin, sensing danger before it appeared, predicting the creature's movements. Together they moved as one, a seamless combination of human ingenuity and alien instinct. The creatures fell one by one, but more kept coming. Elias's body burned with exertion, but he pushed through the fatigue, relying on the bond he shared with Kaylira. He could feel her energy ebbing slightly, but she remained focused, unwavering, determined. When the last creature fell, the valley was silent except for their heavy breathing. Elias looked at Kaylira, her form slightly hunched from exertion, and felt a deep sense of gratitude. She had risked herself for him, guided him, and fought beside him. You survived, she said, her mental voice calm but tinged with fatigue. We survived, Elias corrected, a small smile breaking through his exhaustion. Together, but there was no time to celebrate. Kaylira's eyes narrowed as she scanned the horizon. Not safe, others coming. Elias followed her gaze and saw the silhouettes of her tribe approaching. They were humanoid like Kaylira, but carried weapons and wore armor unlike anything Elias had seen. Their eyes glowed with suspicion, even anger. They don't trust me, Elias said quietly, a knot forming in his stomach. Kaylira's expression was hard. Trust earned. You, outsider, threat, must be judged. The tribe surrounded them, forming a semicircle. One of the figures stepped forward, taller than the others, adorned in intricate armor. Kaylira's shoulders tensed. Kaylira, the figure said in the alien language, its words sharp and commanding. You have broken the law. You have bonded with a human. You betray our ways. Kaylira stood her ground, her silver eyes unwavering. Choice mine. He needed help, trust, given freely. The figure's gaze flicked to Elias. You, human, you interfere with our world. Your presence cannot continue. Elias felt the weight of their judgment. He had survived the crash, the alien world, the predators. But now, the very people who had the power to protect him were turning against him. He took a deep breath, feeling Kaylira's strength flow into him, steadying his nerves. I mean no harm, he said in the simplest terms, hoping they could understand. I only want to survive and learn. The leader's eyes narrowed. Survival. For humans. Irrelevant. Trust. Not given, Kaylira. Punished for your bond. Elias felt a surge of anger. He had come to this world as an outsider, a fragile human, yet he had proven his worth. He had survived the dangers, fought alongside Kaylira, and learned to adapt. And now he was being judged by those who refused to see his strength, his determination, his humanity. Kaylira placed a hand on his arm, grounding him. Patience. Strategy. Fight. If necessary, Elias nodded, understanding. They could not back down, but they could not rush blindly either. Kalira led him to a narrow canyon, using the terrain to their advantage. The tribe followed, cautious but persistent. The first confrontation came quickly. A younger member of the tribe lunged forward, weapon raised. Elias reacted instinctively, moving with a speed and precision that stunned even himself. He disarmed the attacker without causing serious injury, using only his strength and balance. Kalira was beside him, her movements fluid and controlled, guiding him through the skirmish. The tribe paused, reassessing. Elias could feel Kalira's tension, her energy flowing through him, keeping him alert. They were not just fighting for survival. They were fighting for recognition, for the chance to prove that a human could stand alongside her kind. Over the next hours, they faced multiple challenges. The tribe tested them with combat drills, strategic traps, and relentless pursuit. Each encounter was a lesson in adaptation, trust, and resilience. Elias learned quickly, anticipating movements, using the terrain, and coordinating with Kalira in ways that felt almost instinctual. Through it all, the bond between them deepened. Elias could feel Kalira's thoughts and emotions more clearly, her subtle cues guiding him in battle. He could sense her concerns, her strategies, even her unspoken fears. And Kalira, in turn, sensed his determination, his courage, and the spark of ingenuity that humans often possessed in the face of adversity. By nightfall, the trials had exhausted both of them, but they had earned something invaluable, a grudging respect. The tribe's attacks were less aggressive, their movements less hostile. Elias could feel the shift, subtle but undeniable. Kalira turned to him, her silver eyes reflecting the twin moons above. "You improve. Human can endure. Learn, adapt, strong. Together." Elias smiled despite the fatigue. "We are stronger together," he replied, feeling the truth of his words resonate through their bond. But the trials were far from over. As they rested in the hidden glade, Elias sensed movement in the shadows. Not the tribe, not the predators, but something else. Something larger. A presence that exuded power, intelligence, and intent. Kalira tensed beside him, her energy pulsing through their connection. Come, test. Ultimate, Elias felt a mixture of fear and anticipation. He had faced dangers before, but this was different. This was a test not just of strength, but of strategy, trust, and the very limits of their bond. The next day brought the challenge. The tribe led them to a vast arena of stone and rock, a natural formation that served as both battlefield and proving ground. The leader spoke, his voice carrying across the expanse. "Kalira, you brought a human. You claim strength. Together prove, or be cast out." Elias's heart pounded. He was human, fragile by design. Yet he could feel the energy Kalira had shared with him. He had trained, learned, adapted. He was ready. The trial began with a series of obstacles, physical, mental, and strategic. Elias and Kalira navigated treacherous terrain, solved complex puzzles, and faced simulated predators designed to test their bond. Each challenge required coordination, trust, and the willingness to rely on one another completely. Through the trial, Elias discovered something remarkable. Humans were underestimated not because they were weak, but because they were unpredictable. He used ingenuity to find solutions Kalira had not considered, leveraging his human perspective to complement her alien skills. Their combination was powerful, seamless, and effective. The final challenge was a confrontation with the tribe's elite warriors. Elias and Kalira faced them in combat, each move a dance of strategy, strength, and shared instinct. Elias's body moved with precision, his mind anticipating the enemy, while Kalira's guidance ensured every strike was effective. When the last warrior fell, the arena was silent. Elias and Kalira stood together, exhausted but victorious. The tribe's leader approached, his expression unreadable. "You survive," he said finally. "Kalira. Bond, strong, human, capable. Respect earned." Elias exhaled, relief flooding through him. For the first time he felt true recognition. Not pity, not dismissal, but respect. He had survived, adapted, and proven that humans could endure, learn, and even excel in an alien world. Kalira's hand rested on his arm, a silent acknowledgement of their victory. "Together. Endure, together. Strong." Elias smiled, feeling the warmth of their bond. "Yes, together." As night fell, they returned to their hidden glade, Elias lay down, exhausted but exhilarated. Kalira sat beside him, her form reflecting the moonlight. Their bond, tested and proven, was stronger than ever. The sky was dark, streaked with red and gold, as if the planet itself were on fire. Elias and Kalira stood on the ridge overlooking the valley where her tribe had once hunted freely. The tranquility of the glade they had called home was gone. The air was thick with the scent of smoke and the distant roar of unknown creatures. They invade, Kalira said in her mental voice, her silver eyes sharp with tension. Not tribe. Others, dangerous. Threat entire land. Elias clenched his fists. He had faced predators, hostile warriors, and harsh terrain, but this was different. This was a coordinated force, intelligent and ruthless. His body, enhanced by Kalira's life energy, tingled with anticipation. He felt stronger, faster, sharper. But he knew that raw strength alone would not be enough. Strategy, adaptability, and trust would decide the outcome. We face them, together, Elias said firmly. His voice carried conviction, a steady pulse of humanity's enduring courage. Kalira nodded, a faint smile touching her features. The two descended into the valley, moving swiftly along hidden paths. Elias could feel the life bond flowing between them, a steady current of energy, strength, and awareness. Every step they took was synchronized. They could anticipate each other's movements without words. As they approached the outer edge of the enemy's encampment, Elias paused. The invaders were massive, armored creatures unlike anything he had seen before. Their limbs were thick with muscle and their weapons pulsed with strange energy. Their numbers were overwhelming, yet they had not noticed the human and the alien observing them from above. Kalira placed a hand on his shoulder. Plan. Necessary. Attack. Without caution. Fail. Elias nodded. We use what we have learned. Together we adapt. They moved through the underbrush, avoiding patrols, using stealth to position themselves strategically. Elias felt exhilarated. Each moment was a test of his abilities, his wits, and the bond he shared with Kalira. Every flicker of movement, every sound, was a signal they could interpret together. At the heart of the encampment stood the leader of the invaders, a towering creature whose energy radiated authority and menace. Elias could sense the fear radiating from the enemy ranks, not at the invaders themselves, but at the unusual pair that had appeared on their perimeter. Kalira whispered in his mind. Signal. Strength. Surprise. First strike. Elias nodded, understanding instinctively. They moved like shadows, silent and precise. Kalira guided him to a vantage point where they could attack simultaneously. Their movements were almost inseparable. Each strike was perfectly timed, each counter flawlessly executed. The first wave of invaders fell quickly. Elias could feel Kalira's energy reinforcing his strikes, guiding him to the weak points of the armored creatures. He moved faster than he had ever imagined, every motion precise, controlled, and devastating. Yet the battle was far from over. More invaders emerged from the valley, forcing them to adapt constantly. Elias used the terrain to his advantage, leading enemies into narrow passages, using rock formations to funnel them into traps. Kalira's guidance was invaluable. Her instincts allowed them to anticipate every movement, avoid ambushes, and strike with lethal efficiency. Hours passed in a blur of combat. Elias felt his body pushed to its limits, yet the energy bond sustained him. Kalira's presence was a constant steadying force, a reminder that he was never truly alone. Together, they were a force the invaders had not anticipated, humans and aliens working as one. As the sun reached its zenith, the leader of the invading force confronted them directly. Elias could feel the raw power emanating from the creature, a pressure that would have crushed any ordinary human. But he was not ordinary. He was enhanced, bonded with Kalira, and driven by a determination that transcended fear. Kalira whispered urgently, "Use, all risk, survive." Elias nodded, understanding the stakes. He drew on the energy flowing from Kalira, channeling it through himself. His body surged with power, every movement faster, every strike harder, every sense sharper. He was no longer merely human. He was a conduit of their combined strength, a living testament to what humanity could achieve when united with others. The confrontation was intense. The enemy leader struck with crushing force, but Elias anticipated, dodged, and countered. Kalira's guidance was precise, telling him when to strike, when to defend, when to retreat and reposition. The battle felt almost like a dance. a perfect blend of instinct, intelligence, and raw strength. Finally, with a decisive strike, Elias and Kalira brought the enemy leader down. The remaining invaders, witnessing the destruction of their commander, faltered. Fear spread through their ranks. Elias seized the moment, coordinating with Kalira to drive the invaders back, using both strategy and strength. When the dust settled, the valley was quiet. The invaders had retreated, their morale broken. Elias stood beside Kalira, both exhausted but victorious. He could feel the bond between them stronger than ever, a pulse of energy and trust that had been tested and proven in the heat of battle. Kalira placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch grounding him. Survive. Not alone. Human, capable, trust proven. Elias smiled, a sense of accomplishment and pride washing over him. I did it, together. The aftermath brought reflection. Kalira's tribe emerged cautiously from the shadows. Their expressions were a mix of awe and respect. They had witnessed the human's courage, the strategic brilliance, and the synergy between him and Kalira. The leader of the tribe stepped forward, bowing slightly. Kalira, you choose wisely. Human, honor shown, strength, true, trust, earned. Elias felt a surge of relief. For the first time, he realized that humanity had not only survived the harshness of this alien world, but had also proven its worth. Humans could adapt, learn, and even lead when the circumstances demanded it. The trials had been brutal, but they had revealed a truth Elias had always suspected. Humans were resilient, inventive, and capable of greatness. Kalira turned to him, her eyes reflecting pride and warmth. Together. Strong. Future. Uncertain but hope. Present. Elias nodded. Hope. Always. Humans always find a way. In the days that followed, they helped Kalira's tribe rebuild after the invasion. Elias shared human strategies, combining them with Kalira's knowledge of the land. Together, they fortified settlements, trained warriors, and prepared defenses against any future threats. The tribe, initially skeptical of the human, grew to respect and value him. They recognized that Elias's ingenuity, courage, and determination were qualities that could not be ignored, the mark of a species capable of rising to any challenge. Elias found himself reflecting on the journey. He had arrived on this world weak and injured, a fragile outsider. But through trust, cooperation, and the willingness to adapt, he had become something more. Humanity, he realized, was not defined solely by technology or strength. It was defined by resilience, creativity, and the capacity to form bonds that transcended differences. Kalira remained by his side, their bond a constant reminder of what could be achieved when trust and courage combined. They moved through the valley, teaching, guiding, and protecting together. The bond they shared was no longer just a tool for survival. It had become a symbol of unity, a testament to the potential of collaboration between species. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the valley, Elias stood beside Kalira on a cliff overlooking the land they had helped secure. The air was calm, the danger temporarily at bay. He took a deep breath, feeling the bond pulse softly, a rhythm of life and connection that anchored him. Kalira, I never imagined this, he said quietly. I never imagined humans could do this. Here now. Kalira's gaze met his, unwavering and calm. Humans, capable, must believe, adapt, endure, together, achieve. Elias smiled, feeling a profound sense of fulfillment. Together, yes. Together we can face anything. And in that moment he understood the truth that had guided him all along. Humans were not weak. They were survivors, innovators and partners capable of achieving greatness when they trusted themselves and those who stood beside them. The future was uncertain. There would be challenges, dangers, and trials yet to come. But Elias no longer feared them. Humanity had proven its worth not through sheer strength alone, but through courage, ingenuity, and the willingness to connect, adapt, and endure. Kalira rested a hand on his arm, a silent affirmation. Elias felt the warmth of their bond and the certainty that whatever the universe might throw at them, they would face it together. As night settled over the valley, Elias looked to the stars. He thought of Earth, of humanity, and of the vast possibilities that awaited them. Humans were small in the universe, fragile in form but unyielding in spirit. And with trust, courage, and determination, there was no force in the galaxy that could truly overcome them. The bond between human and alien, Between Elias and Kalira was more than survival. It was a statement. A declaration that humanity, despite its weaknesses, could rise to greatness. That even in the harshest, most alien conditions, humans could endure, learn, adapt, and triumph. Elias turned to Kalira, feeling a sense of peace he had never known. "We've proven it, haven't we? Humanity matters." Kalira nodded, silver eyes reflecting the twin moons. "Humanity matters. Together, strong. Universe-wide, but humans endure."